صلوات۔ ہے پانچویں امام محمد ہے جن کا نام، باقر لقب سے جانتے ہیں ان کو خاص و عام، ہے علم میرے پانچویں آقا کبھی غلام، ان کو سلام کرتے ہیں جبرائیل صبح شام۔ اللہ ایک ہے پنجتن پانچ ہیں، امام 12 ہیں معصوم 14 ہیں۔ اللہ ایک ہے امام 12 ہیں معصوم 14 ہیں۔ صلوات۔ Salawat. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Ruh al-Kamali, the one and only daughter of Taha wa Yasin. The best of daughters is given to al-Mu'mineen. We ask you to intercede for us on Qiyamah, so that with you we may also enter Jannah. On this day, for surely victorious will be, saved from the hellfire through his mercy. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Ruh al-Kamali. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. The best of women to have walked on this earth. You deserve the best of husbands equal to your worth. He was known as Al-Qarrar and Asadullah, the one who gave charity while he was in Salah. Ya Haydar, Babul Madina. Blessed he was to be born in the Kaaba. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Ruh al-Kamali. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. In your house the Holy Prophet did come one day. You shouted him a story, remember till today. A house with such nor was seen from high above, respected such that even the angels would knock. Who was under this cloak? The questions had begun. Fatima, her father, husband, and her son. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Ruh al-Kamali. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Visiting you in Baqir is one wish that we like, knowing then you will visit us the day that we die. Sayyida, we ask Allah through your son Hussein, that with Imam al-Hujjah the right path we attain. Ya Mahdi, bring back the truth. Ya Ibn Zahra Mahdi, annihilate falsehood. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Al-A'imma bint al-Khadija. Ruh al-Kamali. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Ya Zahra, flower of Ali. Ya Hawra, delight of Nabi. Salawat.
Nare salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad علم و حکمت کا سمندر ہے محمد باقر، صورت ساقی کوثر ہے محمد باقر، وارث آیت تطہیر ہے مولا میرے، بے بدل ہادی و رہبر ہے محمد باقر، خوب رو ایسے کہ دنیا کو ضیائیں بانٹیں، خوب رو ایسے کہ دنیا کو ضیائیں بانٹیں، نور ہی نور ہے انور ہے محمد باقر، یہ فصاحت میں بلاغت میں علی کا پرتو، یہ فصاحت میں بلاغت میں علی کا پرتو، مہرباں مثل پیمبر ہے محمد باقر، پاک حسنین کا پاکیزہ لہو ہے ان میں، پاک حسنین کا پاکیزہ لہو ہے ان میں، ان کے اوصاف کا جوہر ہے محمد باقر، دین کی نشر و اشاعت رہا مقصد ان کا، دین کی نشر و اشاعت رہا مقصد ان کا، عقل والوں کا مقدر ہے محمد باقر، ان پہ ادراک کے کھل جائیں دریچے سارے، ان پہ ادراک کے کھل جائیں دریچے سارے، جن کے اذہان کے اندر ہے محمد باقر، ناز کرتے ہیں مقدر پہ وہ اپنے ساحل، ناز کرتے ہیں مقدر پہ وہ اپنے ساحل، جن علی والوں کے سرور ہیں محمد باقر، علم و حکمت کا سمندر ہے محمد باقر، درود پڑھ لیں، اللہم صلی علی محمد مولا محمد، ابو بھائی او ماشاءاللہ، علی بھائی، علی بھائی بسم اللہ، بسم اللہ، what a perfect time.
سب سے پہلے تمام مومنین کو جناب محمد باقر علیہ السلام کے پر نور ظہور کا بہت بہت مبارک پیش کرتا ہوں، آپ سب کو بہت مبارک، آپ کو بھی بہت مبارک، اور باقر علیہ السلام کی شان کے 4 مصرے آپ کی خدمت میں پیش کرنا چاہتا ہوں، بار محمد و آل محمد صلوات صلوات۔ خدا کا علم مجسم ہوا ہے باقر میں، خدا کا نور مجسم ہے باقر میں خدا کا علم مجسم چلے زمین پہ تو پھر چال عابدین دیکھو کبھی نماز کی حالت میں ساجدین دیکھو حسین سارے کا سارا چھپا ہے باقر میں خدا کا علم مجسم ہوا ہے باقر میں کہ عابدین کو اجر مل گیا ہے باقر میں خدا کا علم اسی کا نور فلک میں شگاف کیوں نہ کرے خدا کا کعبہ تیرے گھر طواف کیوں نہ کرے علی ہی تم کو دوبارہ ملا ہے باقر میں خدا کا علم مجسم ہوا ہے باقر میں کہ عابدین کو اجر مل گیا ہے باقر میں خدا کا علم صلوات
ساتھ آخری شعر سنائیں. آپ کے بیٹے سے شروع کیا تھا اور ماشاءاللہ آپ نے سب نے ماشاءاللہ بر محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. ذیشان ہے جو وادی صاحب کا ایک کلام ہے اس کے چند اشعار ایک مطلب پہ باوض بنا نعرہ صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد. مانا کوئی رسول نہیں ہے نبی کے بعد. مانا کوئی رسول نہیں ہے نبی کے بعد. مانا کوئی رسول نہیں ہے نبی کے بعد. ایک ہو بہو رسول ہے لیکن علی کے بعد. ایک ہو بہو رسول ہے لیکن علی کے بعد. ارے کل آئے تھے جہاں میں علی مصطفیٰ کے بعد. ارے کل آئے تھے جہاں میں علی بعد مصطفیٰ اور اب آئے ہیں جہاں میں محمد علی کے بعد. بہت شکریہ. اب آئے ہیں جہاں میں محمد علی کے بعد. اور لگ جائیں کیوں نہ ماہے امامت کو چار چاند. لگ جائیں کیوں نہ ماہے امامت کو چار چاند. ارے نکلا ہے چاند پانچواں چوتھے وسیع کے بعد. یا علی بہت شکریہ. نکلا ہے چاند پانچواں چوتھے وسیع کے بعد. اور یوں بھی ضعیف تھا شب اول کا ماہتاب. یوں بھی ضعیف تھا شب اول کا ماہتاب. زو اور ماند پڑ گئی اس روشنی کے بعد. زور ماند پڑ گئی اس روشنی کے بعد. اور ماں دختر حسن ہے تو ابن حسین باپ. ماں دختر حسن ہے تو ابن حسین باپ. اب کوئی برتری نہیں اس برتری کے بعد. اب کوئی برتری نہیں اس برتری کے بعد. اور روشن ہوا زمانے پہ اس کے علوم سے
روشن ہوا زمانے پہ اس کے علوم سے باقر خطاب ملتا ہے اس آگہی کے بعد، باقر خطاب ملتا ہے اس آگہی کے بعد، اور روشن ہے بزم نور کلام کلیم سے، روشن ہے بزم نور کلام کلیم سے، تاریکیاں فنا ہوئی اس روشنی کے بعد، تاریکیاں فنا ہوئی اس روشنی کے بعد، مانا کوئی رسول نہیں ہے نبی کے بعد، ایک ہو بہو رسول ہے لیکن علی کے بعد، اور محمد آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم محمد انوار دو تین اشارہ اور محمد آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، ارے رموز کون و مکان کا ہے رازداں باقر، اور علی کا روپ ہے یہ منبر سلونی پر، علی کا روپ ہے یہ منبر سلونی پر، دیار جہل میں غیر علم کی اذان باقر، دیار جہل میں غیر علم کی اذان باقر، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر، محمد آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم اور پہنچ نہ پائیں گے افکار اس کے ساحل تک، پہنچ نہ پائیں گے افکار اس کے ساحل تک، فضیلتوں کا ایک بغیر بے کراں باقر، فضیلتوں کا ایک بغیر بے کراں باقر، اور بکھرتے جاتے ہیں شعروں میں نور کے جلوے، بکھرتے جاتے ہیں شعروں میں نور کے جلوے، ہے آسمان تخیل کی کہکشاں باقر، ہے آسمان تخیل کی کہکشاں باقر علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر. آخری شعر ہے. ارے اسی کے ذکر میں مصروف ثاقب و بوذر، اسی کے ذکر میں مصروف ثاقب و بوذر، صدا و فکر کے پردوں میں ہے نہاں باقر، صدا و فکر کے پردوں میں ہے نہاں باقر، علوم آل محمد کا آسمان باقر. اور محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم، اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. ضیاء بھائی
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد وعجل فرجہم. ابو ذر بھائی سے معذرت کے ساتھ لیٹ ہو گئے. اللہم صلی علی محمد. کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی، کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی، جس کی تعریف خدا کرتا ہے اور پاک نبی. کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی، پاک پیغمبر آخر نے کہا جابر سے، دیکھ لو تم کو یہ کہنا ہے میرے باقر سے، ذکر تم جا کے میرا کرنا میرے دل بر سے، کہنا تم جا کے یہ سجاد کے اس گوہر سے. نانا کہتے تھے سلام آپ کو اے ناصر دین، نانا کہتے تھے سلام آپ کو اے ناصر دین، چومنا میری طرف سے اس کی نورانی جبین. کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی. بہت شکریہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. بہت شکریہ. آیا جب دنیا میں سجاد کی گودی میں وہ نور، آیا جب دنیا میں سجاد کی گودی میں وہ نور، پھر سے جلنے لگا اس نور سے وہ موسیٰ کا طور، پھر سے جلنے لگا اس نور سے وہ موسیٰ کا طور. یہ حسن اور حسین دونوں کے ہے دل کا سرور، یہ حسن اور حسین دونوں کے ہے دل کا سرور. ماں حسن زادی ہے اور بابا ہے سجاد غیور، ماں حسن زادی ہے اور بابا ہے سجاد غیور. ماں امامت کی پلی بابا امام دو جہاں، ماں امامت کی پلی بابا امام دو جہاں. نور سے لکھا گیا جو یہ ہے ایسا قرآن. کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی. بہت شکریہ. کفریہ دور تھا اور کفر کا ہر سو چرچا، کفریہ دور تھا اور کفر کا ہر سو چرچا. دین بدعات سے پر لگتا تھا ایک مجموعہ، معاویہ اور یزید تھا مروان دغا. سچ جو کہتا تھا اسے مار دیا جاتا تھا، سچ جو کہتا تھا اسے مار دیا جاتا تھا۔ ایسے میں علم کے اس بحر کی جو لہر اٹھی، ایسے میں علم کے اس بحر کی جو لہر اٹھی، دین کی میلی جبیں صاف ہوئی اور چمکی، کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی، اور درس گاہ دین کی باقر کہ وہ قائم کر دی، درس گاہ دین کی باقر نے وہ قائم کر دی۔ آہو بھٹکا ہوا آیا تو اسے راہ ملی، آہو بھٹکا ہوا آیا تو اسے راہ ملی۔ علم کی ایسی فضا ایسی ہوا چلنے لگی، صاف ہوتی گئی ہر بات جو کھوٹی اور کھری، پھر اٹھائے نہ کوئی سر یہ بھی رکھا ہے خیال، پھر اٹھائے نہ کوئی سر یہ بھی رکھا ہے خیال، ایسے شاگرد بنائے جو بڑے تھے باکمال، کون ہوں میں کہ میں تعریف کروں باقر کی۔ درود بر محمد و آل محمد۔
صلی اللہ علیہ محمد و آل محمد۔ اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ الحمدللہ الذی لا یبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا یوسینا ماہ العدون ولا یؤدی حقه المجتہدون، الذی لا یدرکہ بہد الہمم ولا ینالہ غوث الفتن، الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود، فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان عرض، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين، أما بعد، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء ومن يؤت الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب، صدق الله العلي العظيم۔ Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the month, or the holy month of Rajab. It started tonight, and inshallah, before we get into our main topic of Imam Baqir a.s, the importance of this month of Rajab and some of the amal that are to be done, because the month of Rajab is one of those months, even before Islam, it was considered to be sacred. When Islam came, it still was considered to be sacred. And one of the amal that you were supposed to do after the moon being sighted tonight was do ghusl for the month of Rajab. 1. 2, in this month, the Holy Prophet, Imam Musa Kazim, Imam Jafar Sadiq, Amir al-Mu'minin, they all say that anyone that fasts at least one day in the month of Rajab, the sins will be forgiven. Anyone that fasts 3 days in this month of Rajab, paradise will be a wajib for them. Anyone that fasts 3 months. Anyone that fasts in this month of Rajab, the squeezing of the grave will be ease for them. Anyone that fasts in the month of Rajab, when their soul is being taken out of their body, it will be easy for them. Anyone that fasts in the month of Rajab, when they are walking on that sirat, on the day of judgment, it will be easy for them, meaning that it would be wide for them. This is what in regards to fasting. In regards to praying, the Holy Prophet, he says that anyone who prays, there's 100 rakat namat, the 100 rakat prayer that is supposed to be prayed, 2 rakat, split up into 2 rakats each. The same way you pray Salat al-Fajr. There's no difference. No difference. This Surah al-Hamd after Surah al-Hamd, whatever surah that you want to read. Anyone that prays this salat, Jannat becomes wajib. This month of Rajab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this is my month. This is my month. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considered this month to be His month? The month of Rajab is the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Holy Prophet said the month of Rajab is the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The month of Shaban is my month, and the month of Ramadan is the month for the Ummah. Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why did the Holy Prophet say that the month of Rajab is the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There is really no tafsir to why the Holy Prophet said that. But if you want to look at this month, look at those nur that were nazil in this month. Amir al-Mu'minin, 13th. Imam Naqi al-Islam, the 5th. Imam Baqir a.s, the 1st. The knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that was carried in 3 Imams in this 1 month. The knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amir al-Mu'mineen, knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Baqir a.s, who propagated that knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll talk about Imam Baqir a.s. and his importance, not just for a Shia, but his importance for Islam itself. This is how important this month of Rajab is. So many people, what can we do in the month of Rajab? Mafati, when you look at the amal for the month of Rajab, there's so many amal. But what happens is when we open up the book, oh, this is too much for us. You don't have to do everything in there. No. Whatever amal that you're capable of doing, by all means, please do it. By all means, please do it. If you can't pray 100 rakat, pray as much as you can. If you can't fast 30 days, fast 1 day. Fast 1 day. And mashallah, some of us do need to lose weight anyways. So, but this ends up becoming, this depends on your niyat. If you fast just for the sake of losing weight, that's it, you lose your weight. There's a sawab in that, you lose your weight. But if you fast for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only do you end up losing weight, but you get sawab for it. So why don't you make your niyat a clean niyat, where you get 2 benefits, not just 1. Fasting. Inshallah, we'll see how many people fast by the end of Rajab. Rajab, Shaban, Ramadan. Anyone who fasts in these 2 months of Rajab and Shaban together before Ramadan, Ramadan becomes wajib. Anyone that fasts in these 2 months leading up to Ramadan, hellfire becomes haram for them. Hellfire becomes haram for them. And they are cleansed from their sins the way a newborn baby comes into this world. The way a newborn baby comes into this world. Brothers and sisters, it's not easy. But the rewards that each and every single one of us is seeking, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy for us to attain. No, we're all supposed to work at it. We're all supposed to work at it. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The verse of the Quran, which I started this lecture off with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yutil hikmata may yasha'u. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives wisdom to whoever He pleases. And whoever is granted wisdom, he is indeed given a great good. Not knowledge, wisdom. There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge can be about anything. Knowledge can be about anything. But wisdom goes into the philosophy behind that knowledge too. It goes into the philosophy behind that knowledge. And that's why you see Imam Baqir a.s, Imam Jafar Sadiq a.s. Why were these two Imams known as Al-Baqirain? Al-Baqirain, Al-Baqir, what does Al-Baqir mean? Imam Baqir a.s, he had many other nicknames. But the one that stuck with Imam Baqir a.s, Al-Baqir. To this day, do we call him, do we say Imam Muhammad al-Shabi? No. No. But we call him Al-Baqir. What does Baqir mean? Baqir, it means to go when a plant is growing and it comes out of its little seedling and it cracks open, that is called Baqar. When a plant is coming out of its seedling, Imam Baqir a.s. was given that nickname of Al-Baqir. Why? Because he went into knowledge in such depth that he brought out many, not just one, many branches out of that one little seedling of knowledge. And that's why Imam Baqir a.s, Imam Jafar Sadiq a.s, known as As-Sadiqain, Al-Baqirain. Al-Baqirain. The two that split open knowledge. But what's sad is, forget the rest of the Muslims. How many of us Shias know about Imam Baqir a.s? How many hadiths do we know about, or how many hadiths do we know that come from Imam Baqir a.s? One miracle of Imam Baqir a.s? No, not many of us. It's sad that we have Imam known as the one who split open knowledge, yet we are ignorant of this personality. We're ignorant of this personality. Imam Baqir a.s, the narrations, they state he was either born in Safar, the 3rd of Safar, or the 1st of Rajab. One of those 2 days. He lived through the rule of 9 Umayyad Khalifas. 9. He was born in the last year of Muawiyah alayhi. Last year of Muawiyah alayhi. And he was shaheed by whom? Hisham ibn Abdul Malik. Between Muawiyah and Hisham, 8 other khulafa. 8 other khulafa. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. 4 to 5 years old when the Battle of Karbala happened. Witnessed everything that happened, the whole tragedy of everything that happened in Karbala, everything that happened in Kufa, everything that happened in Sham, and came back. Yet, when it was time for him to do his duty of imamat, did he let what happened in Karbala affect his duty? No. Did he let what happened in Sham affect his duty? No. What do I mean? When we go through troubles, what ends up happening? We start neglecting our duties to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we go through troubles, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us, what do? We start neglecting our duties to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Forget our duties to the rest of the people. But Imam Baqir a.s, he went through all of those. The shahadat of his grandfather, the shahadat of his father, yet he doesn't neglect his duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't neglect his duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one thing that we need to learn from this holy Imam. But from a young age, his job was to make sure that he spread knowledge. Utlubul ilm minal mahad ilal lahad. Seek, alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. This is the narration of the Holy Prophet. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Imam Muhammad Baqir a.s, from the cradle to the grave, what was he doing? He was the one giving knowledge. Giving knowledge. And this narration, ulama have tried to explain what this narration means. Utlub al-ilm. Knowledge, seek knowledge. What knowledge? When you talk about knowledge, there's so much. And Shaheed Mutari, he has a little booklet, and it deals with this specific topic of seeking knowledge. And in that booklet, he talks about how Rumi, he talks about this narration. And he says the problem that's happened now within the Islamic countries or within the Muslims is that everyone has interpreted, or every field has interpreted knowledge to their own benefit. Meaning what? If you ask the muhaddithin, if you ask the narrators, what does this narration mean? They say by knowledge, the Holy Prophet is talking about hadith, ilm hadith. Seek ilm hadith from the cradle to the grave. The mufassirin of the Quran, if you ask them, they say over here, knowledge means tafsir of Quran. If you ask the urafa, what does ilm here mean? They say it means knowing or gnosis, getting to know the stations in irfan. If you ask historians, what does ilm mean? They say it means history. If you ask the jurisprudence, if you ask the fuqaha, what does ilm mean here? They say fiqh. If you ask the people of akhlaq, what does ilm mean here? They say it means akhlaq. Seek akhlaq from the cradle to the grave. Shaheed Mutari says that, look, everyone has interpreted differently. But over here, he says it's not meant for one specific subject. It's not meant for one specific subject. It's meant for whatever subject is necessary in the society. What do I mean? When it comes to wajibat, there are two types of wajibat. Wajib al-aini and wajib al-kifai. Wajib al-aini are those wajibat that are wajib for each and every single individual. Namaz is wajib for everyone. Roza is wajib for everyone. These are wajib al-aini. Wajib al-kifai are those wajibat that are wajib on everyone in the society until one person takes care of it. For example, namaz al-mayyat, salat al-mayyat, ghusl for the mayyat, jihad, wajib al-kifai. It's wajib on the whole society until there's enough people where they don't need fighters anymore. That's wajib al-kifai. Here, seeking knowledge, is it wajib al-aini or wajib al-kifai? That's where the difference is. Two, when it comes to wajibat, namaz is wajib. Is wuzu wajib? Wuzu is only and only wajib for namaz. So it's a prerequisite. Wuzu is a prerequisite for something that is wajib. So is seeking knowledge also a prerequisite or no? Is it just like namaz that it's wajib on every single individual in and of itself? And Shaheed Mutari, he makes the argument that it's wajib on every single individual, just the same way that namaz is wajib. So that means that the individuals or the society needs to see what this society requires. If the society that you live in requires that there needs to be a doctor, what does that mean? That means that everyone gets together and they send someone to medical school. If the society requires that they need a lawyer, they get together and they find someone and send them to law school. If the society requires that they need an alim, they need to get together, find someone that's willing to go that route and help them. And this is where the problem is in society today. The society, lawyers. The society, doctors. The society, engineers. All of that, and there's no problem. But when it comes to ulama, what does the society say? No, there's no money in that. There's no money in that. Astaghfirullah. They don't realize that this is a wajib that needs to be taken care of. There's no money in that. If there's no money in it, whose zikr are you doing? They're the ones that give those doctors money. They're the ones that give those engineers money. And this thinking needs to change within the society. But when will it change? When the parents start bringing their kids to these majalis. When will it change? When the parents start bringing their kids, no, not leave them outside. When they start bringing them in to this room. The next generation should not be at the same level as this generation. When it comes to everything, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to deen, when it comes to everything. No, if it's at the same level, then that's a waste. What do I mean? Amir al-Mu'mineen says what? He says that if your yesterday is the same as your today, then you wasted today. If your yesterday is the same as your today, meaning whatever you did yesterday, you did that same exact thing today, you wasted 24 hours that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. You wasted 24 hours that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Why? Because there's no taraqqi. You haven't done one more good deed than you did yesterday. If the new generation is at the same level as this generation, then that's a waste of a whole generation. That's a waste of a whole generation. And this is exactly what Imam Muhammad Baqir a.s. and Imam Jafar Sadiq a.s. made sure did not happen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is exactly what these two Baqirain made sure did not happen within Islam. What do I mean? In the time of the Holy Prophet, in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the people that were there, their aql was still locked. They were asking the Holy Prophet, what? Ya Rasulullah, make this tree come to you. They were asking Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, how many hair do I have on my head? They were asking Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, which animals have ears outside their body, which animals have ears inside? These are the questions that they were asking Amir al-Mu'mineen. But when it came to Imam Muhammad Baqir a.s. and Imam Jafar Sadiq a.s., what happened? Yabna Rasulullah, prove to us the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They didn't want mujizat anymore. They wanted philosophical proofs. They wanted logical proofs. That's what they wanted. And you see that it was in their time, starting from Imam Muhammad Baqir a.s. time, the golden age of Islam actually starts. The golden age of Islam. Up to today, Jabir ibn Hayyan, they talk about him in universities as who? The father of chemistry. The father of chemistry. Yet even Jabir says what? I learned from my master Jafar Sadiq. He says that, but they don't know Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. They don't know Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. When you look at Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, what narrations do we have? If you look at a lot of the narrations that we have about previous prophets, you know who it comes from? Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. They come from the stories of the prophets that we have. A lot of them come from Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. For example, after the flood of Hazrat Nuh, Shaitan, he comes to Hazrat Nuh and he says, Ya Nuh, you've done me a favor. You've done me a favor. And because of that, I want to give you a reward. Shaitan says, Shaitan line, he says this. And Hazrat Nuh, he looks at Shaitan and he says, Shaitan, God forbid that I've done you a favor. What is it that I've done? And he says, Shaitan says, after you cursed your people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He drowned all of them. And because He drowned all of them and they all died, I don't have anything to do, so I'm resting. I don't have anything to do. I'm resting. Now when the next generation comes, then I'll start working again. That's what he says. I'm resting now. And then Hazrat Nuh, he said, what favor have I done? That's the favor. What is the reward that you want to give me? And that's when Shaitan, he says, I want to tell you something that I want you to always remember. And he goes, what is it? He goes, remember me during 3 situations. He tells us, remember me during 3 situations. Why? Because in these 3 situations, I am the closest to the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm the closest. Remember me when you become angry. 1. Remember me when you judge between 2 people. 2. And remember me when you're alone with a na-mahram. In these 3 situations, I am the closest to the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you look at these 3 situations, each and every single one of them, look at the type of sins that can be committed. You have zina, you have false testimony, and you have anger. Anger causes most of the issues between families, between nations, in society. Remember me in these situations. From Imam Baqir a.s. The ziyarat that we have, there was a man who came from Khurasan and he had walked and he had his ride. When he came, Imam, he sees that his feet are cracked. The Zair of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein al-Islam. He sees that the feet are cracked. No, not Zair of Imam Hussein, sorry. Zair of Imam Baqir a.s. himself. He sees that his feet are cracked. Imam, he looks at him, he says, what is this? Why do I see that your feet are cracked? And this man, he says, Yabna Rasulullah, I came walking just for your ziyarat. And in that walk, this is what's happened. That's when Imam al-Islam, he says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May He bless your family until the day of judgment. Why? Because we have Shias like you that are willing to walk that far because of the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in your heart. Walk that far. And Imam, he says to this man, he says, be cheerful. Why? Because on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise you with us. Will raise you with us. And that man, he asked, Yabna Rasulullah, will I be raised from the dead with you all? And the Imam replied, yes. The servant who loves us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise him from the dead with us. And then he goes on to say that religion is nothing more than the love for us Ahlul Bayt. Religion is nothing more than the love for us Ahlul Bayt. Meaning what? Meaning all the ibadat that you do. Everything that you do should be for the Ahlul Bayt. When you do something for the Ahlul Bayt, that itself is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Religion is nothing more than love for us. And surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His book, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Surely if you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then follow me. For the Holy Prophet, then follow me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love you and forgive you your sins. Surah Al-Imran, verse number 31. And the Holy Imam, he lived in a time where he had to defend Islam not only from other religions, but he had to defend Islam from within Islam itself. He had to defend Islam from within Islam itself. Not just defend Islam from within Islam, but he had to defend Shia Islam, true Shia Islam, from Shias of that time also. Why? Because you had one of his brothers. Everyone knows his name, known as Zaydish Shaheed. People started taking him as Imam. People started taking him as Imam. And then he goes on to describe who the Shias are. And this is what we all need to focus on. Imam, he says, indeed our Shias, the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the friends of his apostle, are those who tell this truth when they speak. They fulfill the promise when they promise. They pay the deposit when it's deposited. They endure with justice when they're forced to endure. They give when they are asked for obligation, and do justice when they are asked to do justice. Our Shias are those whose ears do not pass over their knowledge. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. Our Shias are those whose ears do not pass over knowledge. Meaning what? Meaning when the knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is passed on, they don't doubt it. They don't say, how can this be? They don't say, how can this be? No. And then he goes on to say, our Shias are those who do not praise those who find fault with us. They do not praise those who find fault with us, nor do they make friends with those who hate us. Nor do they make friends with those who hate us, nor do they associate with those who betray us. They don't even associate with those people who have betrayed the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And when our Shias meet a believer, they honor him. When they meet an ignorant person, they leave them alone. Our Shias are those who do not growl as the dogs do. What does that mean? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something when it's not given. What does a dog do when food is not given to them at the right time? They start growling. Imam, he says, our Shias are not those who growl the way the dogs growl. Nor are they greedy, nor do they ask anyone except their brothers in faith. They don't ask anyone for anything except their brothers in faith. And our Shias are those who believe in our doctrine, separate themselves from their beloved ones for our sake, and approach the strangers who love us and turn away from the strangers who hate us. How many of us do that? We don't know whether someone loves a stranger, someone who loves Ahlul Bayt. Someone who just loved Rasulullah but does not love the Ahlul Bayt, know that they are a hypocrite. Know that they are a hypocrite. Imam Baqir a.s, when he was called to Sham, as he was coming back from Sham, he sees that there's a group. Some of the narrations, they say that this is for Imam Baqir a.s. Some narrations, they say that this is for Imam Jafar Sadiq a.s. But it could be possible that it happened for both of them. But when he was coming from Sham, he sees that the people of Sham, they're going towards a mountain. When he sees that, he asked his companions, where are these people going? And they say, Yabna Rasulullah, once a year, there is a priest, a Christian priest who lives in the mountains. Once a year he comes out and he engages with the people and he asks them questions, he answers their question. Today is that day when that priest is coming out. And Imam Baqir a.s, he says, oh, okay, let's go, I want to go with them. So Imam, he goes with them. And when he goes with them, he just has his cloak over his head and he sits with the Christians. And when that priest, he sees the Imam, he asks him, are you of the Christians or are you of the Muslims? The Imam, he says that I'm a Muslim. I'm a Muslim. And then the man asks, are you a Muslim scholar or are you just a Muslim ignorant person? Are you an alim or are you a jahil? And look at the reply the Imam says. He says, Lastu bi jahil. I am not a jahil. I am not a jahil. He doesn't say I'm an alim. He doesn't say I'm an alim. He says, what? I'm not jahil. There's a difference between both of those. Saying I'm an alim means what? If he was to say I'm alim, he kept in mind what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Out of those 72 huruf that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, He's given 71 to the Ahlul Bayt, He's kept one to Himself. Because He's kept that one to Himself, Imam Baqir a.s, he says, I can't call myself an alim. Because He's kept that one knowledge to Himself, Imam Baqir a.s says, I can't call myself an alim. But at the same time, he says, I'm not a jahil. He says, I'm not a jahil. What does that mean? That means that there is no ignorance within me. Whatever there is to be known in this universe, I know. Whatever there is. I'm not a jahil. Meaning what? If you ask about math, I'm not a jahil. If you ask about science, I'm not a jahil. If you ask about chemistry, I'm not a jahil. If you ask about fiqh, I'm not a jahil. If you ask about philosophy, I'm not a jahil. Whatever ulum that you ask me about, I'm not jahil. In that one reply. And you have people that have mastered or have a PhD in one subject, I admit that's it. I'm an alim. They have a PhD in one field, and they are it. Muslims, Shias, whatever. But Imam Baqir, he's teaching us something. It doesn't matter how much you know, you're still not an alim. When Baqir Ulum says that he is not an alim, or he said that I'm not jahil, who am I to sit here and say I'm an alim? No one. But the Christian scholar, when he hears this, he asks him, do you want to ask me questions or should I ask you questions? And Imam, he goes, you can ask me if you want. You can ask me if you want. So he asks him the first question. He says, why do you Muslims claim that the residents of heaven or the residents of heaven will eat and drink without needing to use the bathroom, without needing to excrete? They'll eat as much as they want. Is there something that is similar in this world? Is there something that's similar in this world? Do you have an example like that where they eat as much as they want, but there's no excretion? And the Imam, he says, yes, there is an analog. There is something somewhat similar. Not exactly the same, but somewhat similar. And he goes, what is it? He goes, when a fetus is inside the womb, it eats as much as it wants, but it does not excrete. It doesn't excrete. It doesn't excrete. Then the Christian scholar, he asks, why do you believe that heavenly fruits and blessings never decrease? Why do you believe that heavenly fruits never decrease? No matter how much are consumed, they'll never decrease. Is there an analog in this world? Is there something that is similar in this world? That no matter how much it doesn't decrease? And the Imam, he says, yes, there is an analog. There's something similar in this world. And he goes, what is it? He says, it's a fire. With one fire, you can light as many things as you want, but that initial fire will not decrease. That initial fire will not decrease. Then he asks him the third thing. Let me know about a time which is neither part of the day nor that of the night. And Imam Baqir a.s, he says that that part that is not between the day or the night is the time between Fajr and sunrise. That part is neither counted between the day nor is it counted between the night. Then he asks his last question. And he goes, can you tell me about that personality who had a brother? They both died the same year, but one, when he passed away, he was 150 years old, the other was 50 years old. Can you tell me who that was? And Imam, he goes, yes, it was Uzair and his brother Azra. Uzair, they also there's a film that's made on him too. I believe Iran has already made a film on Prophet Uzair a while ago. But Uzair, he was passing by a village, and he noticed that the people were completely dead. They were all dead. It just saw bones. And he was passing by on his donkey, and he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, how is it that you will raise these people back up? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does he do? He takes the soul of Uzair. He takes the soul of the donkey. He takes their soul. 100 years later, he puts the souls back in. And then he asks, how long have you slept? And Hazrat Uzair, he replies, maybe just a day or less than a day. A day or less than a day. And says, no, it's been over 100 years. It's been over. To check, what does he do? He goes back to where he came from, and he sees his brother. His brother's old. And he starts to talk to him about stuff that happened in their childhood. When he starts to talk to him about stuff that happened in their childhood, that's when the brother asks, are you Uzair? How do you know about this? He goes, I am Uzair. He goes, what happened? He goes, I was passing by this village. I asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how he's going to raise the dead, and this is what happened. I only thought that it was only half a day or one day, that's it. But I see that it's been this long. And that's when that Christian scholar, he looks at all the other Christians that were there, and he says, you purposely brought him here just to disgrace me. You purposely brought him here just to disgrace me. And because of this, I will not see you all anymore. That's it. When this news reached Sham, the Muslims, they were very happy. Why? Because up until that time, everyone thought that he was a religious person. He was the scholar that no one could defeat. But Imam Baqir a.s, in just 3 questions. Because of these answers that Imam Baqir a.s. gave, he never even let Imam Baqir ask him one question. He never even let Imam Baqir ask him one question. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more time. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When you look at both of these Imams, and you look at Shia Islam, you look at Islam in general, both of these Imams wanted knowledge to be spread. But how sad is it that when you look at Islamic countries, they're the most ignorant in the world. They're the most ignorant in the world. If you look at, for example, Pakistan, India, where most of us are from, how many people in Pakistan, India are literate? 60%? 70%? Literate. When you look at the women in these countries, there are more illiterate women than there are literate women. Meaning there are more uneducated women than there are educated women. When you look at men, there's more, what? Uneducated men. Why? Now you have some of the countries that are realizing that what they've done for 2, 3, 4 generations was absolutely wrong. And now you see what Islam wanted Islam to be like, or you're starting to see in terms of education, where Islam could be. But it all depends on who? Us. That's it. 2, they've already done studies, and they state that the average American, Whether you accept it or not, we all live in America, we are part of this. And you can see for yourself after when I talk about this study. The average American, they spend 5 to 6 hours daily on their phone. The average American spends 5 to 6 hours daily on their phone. And this isn't including work-related stuff, no. Not including work-related stuff. They spend 5 to 6 hours daily on their phone. And of those 5 to 6 hours, 2.5 hours are spent browsing social media. Just browsing social media. TikTok, Facebook, whatever, Facebook, oh my God. 2.5 hours just browsing social media. Where would your knowledge be if you spent those 2.5 hours reading about Imam Baqir a.s? Where would your knowledge be if we spent those 2.5 hours reading about Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam? A waste of 2.5 hours. For all of us to think about. What set Imam apart from others is what? His jurisprudence, his fiqh. Imam, he made sure he didn't only have Shias that learned under him, no. You had people of the other school of thought, they also learned under the Imam. But when it came to his students, when they debated with others, there was no one like them. When it came to his students, when they debated others in fiqh, when they debated others in philosophy, when they debated others in aqaid, there was no one that was second to them. That's how he taught. What did the Imam try to do? He tried to get people away from materialism, which people are going back towards now, materialism. He had people like Aban ibn Taqbul, one of the most devout companions of Imam Baqir a.s, Imam Jafar Sadiq a.s. Both of these Imams, they used to say that we love having a Shia like you in the masjid. We love having a Shia like you in the masjid. Why? Because they were the ones that taught them fiqh. The Imams, they said, stay in the masjid, give fatwas. Be in the masjid and give fatwas. Fatwa comes from whom? A fatwa comes from whom? A mufti. A fatwa comes from mufti, but in our Shia school of thought, it comes from a marja. It comes from Ayatullah, it comes from a marja. This idea that maraja only started in the ghaibat of Imam Zaman al-Islam is absolutely wrong. Why? Because when you have Imam, like for example, Imam Baqir a.s. telling his companions, be in the masjid and give out fatwas, that tells you that this person was a marja in the eyes of the Imam. It was a marja. When you have the 9th Imam, when you have the 10th Imam, when you have the 8th Imam, they're telling their companions to be in the masajid and give out fatwas. This tells you that these people knew fiqh. In the eyes of the Imam, they were maraja. So ijtihad did not appear in the time of the ghaibat of Imam Zaman al-Islam. It was there before. But the only problem was what? The Shias, they did not need to refer to them. Why? Because they had access to the Imam. When you have access to the source of water, why would you go to a stream? Why would you go to a stream? When you have the whole ocean or when you have the whole Bahr in front of you, why would you go to a stream? You wouldn't. So there was no need for the Shias to go to these companions. Even though the Imams, they gave them permission. They went straight to the Imam. But for us, that ocean is not in front of us. Because that ocean is not in front of us, we are forced to go to that stream. And that stream is the maraja that we have today. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ الْعَظِيمٍ. And this is what I want to end the lecture with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says about the Holy Prophet that you have been created on sublime morality. The morality of Imam Baqir a.s, there was a reason that one of the nicknames that he was given was Ash-Shabi. Ash-Shabi means what? Shabi means what? Replica. Shabi means replica. He was a replica of who? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jabir ibn Abdullah, he is the one who sent salam from the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet used Jabir as a medium. One, Imam Baqir a.s, there are many miracles from Imam Baqir a.s, but one of the miracles, this same Jabir, who became blind, Imam, he asked Jabir, do you want to see? Imam, when he asked Jabir, he says, Mawla, they were in Hajj. And Jabir, he says, there's so many Hajis. And there's a lot of wailing. There's a lot of crying. There's a lot of sound. And the Imam, what does he say? No, there's very few Hajis, but there's a lot of crying. And Jabir, he goes, Mullah, what do you mean? He goes, Jabir, do you want to see? And Jabir, he says, yes. Imam Baqir, all he does is he wipes his hand over Jabir's eyes, and his eyes open. When his eyes open, he sees that a lot of the Hajis are in the form of pigs, monkeys, dogs. A lot of the Hajis, they're in the form of pigs, monkeys, dogs. And they're all yelling. And Jabir says, Mawla, what am I seeing? He says, Jabir, you're seeing reality as the way it is. Tell me, do you want to keep your eyesight or do you want me to take it back? If you keep your eyesight on the Day of Judgment, you will be asked about this by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how you used it. If I take it back, you will go to heaven not being asked about these. And Jabir, he says, Mawla, take my eyesight back. Take my eyesight back. One of the most famous companions of Imam Baqir a.s, Jabir Jofi. And you've all heard all of those narrations from my father. Even though Jabir, not Jabir Jofi, when this Jabir meets this Jabir, there's a difference. There's a difference in their aqaid. This Jabir, he is blind, but he is a faqih. He's a faqih. Jabir Jofi, not faqih the way Jabir is, but he is an arif. In what? In the sense of how he understands imamat. In how he understands imamat. Jabir Jofi tells us, Jabir, I went to Hajj with Imam Baqir a.s. on an elephant. He created an elephant out of clay, and we rode it towards Hajj. And Jabir ibn Abdullah, he goes, what are you talking about? Why do you say stuff like this? He goes and he complains to Imam Baqir a.s. And Imam, he says, Jabir, if you want, I can also take you to Hajj like that too. If you want, I can also take you to Hajj. Look at the difference. Jabir Jofi understands what? That if Hazrat Isa al-Islam can create a bat out of sand, if Hazrat Isa al-Islam can create a bat out of sand and breathe into it life, then who? The Imam of Hazrat Isa al-Islam can create an elephant out of sand and breathe into it life. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Jabir Jofi understands that. That's the difference between a faqih and an arif. An arif sees reality. An arif sees reality. A faqih, he only deals with what? What's apparent to him, that's it. And that's the difference between Jabir ibn Abdullah and Jabir Jofi. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If Imam wasn't to be poisoned, can you imagine where knowledge would be? Can you imagine how much knowledge there would be if the Imam wasn't to be poisoned at that age of 50, 58? Where would knowledge be? It's happened to all of the Imams. Inshallah, we have the Wiladat coming of Imam Muhammad Naqi al-Islam. We're also going to have the Shahadat of Imam Naqi al-Islam also. And you'll see in the time of this Imam also, this is another figure, another personality, another nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that many of us don't know about. Many of us don't know about. To the point where in Najaf, I had students also, some of my friends, they were also from Gilead, Batisan, and these village areas. One of them jokingly says, Tayyab, I don't understand people. I go, what happened? Back in our village, one year they were getting together and they were all choosing which wiladat, which shahadat to take. And everyone was basically fighting for the big ones. Muharram, the Wiladat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Shahadat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Wiladat of Imam Hassan, they took all of them. Some of the people, they were last. When they were last, they looked at the flyer and they said, all of them are taken, we're only left with Naqi and Taqi. We're only left with Naqi and Taqi. This is the sad reality that people forget that we have 12 Imams. When it comes to Imam Taqi al-Islam, when it comes to Imam Naqi al-Islam, Imam Taqi al-Islam especially at the age of 9, he took on Imamat. And at that time, the Shias themselves, they were fighting. They were claiming that he was an Imam. Imam Taqi al-Islam, inshallah, we'll talk about Imam Taqi al-Islam when it comes to his Wiladat and his Shahadat, inshallah. But I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He keeps us on the path of Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses each and every single one of us and all the Shias of Amir al-Mu'mineen in this holy month of Rajab. He forgives our sins. He forgives the sins of all of our marhumeen, mu'mineen, mu'minat. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of Imam Zaman. Let us, our families, and anyone that's willing to sacrifice their life for him and his cause. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Please, brothers, sisters, recite Surah Fatiha for your marhumeen and for the marhumeen whose names are on the wall in the back. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله احد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يولد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اغفرهم وارحمهم واسكنهم بجوار محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, Tuesday night will be the shahadat of Imam Naqi al-Islam. Tuesday night will be the shahadat of Imam Naqi al-Islam, and we have shahadat program here inshallah Tuesday night.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا حجة الله. السلام عليك يا رحمة للعالمين. السلام عليك يا باعث الهدى ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا سوق الدين. السلام عليك يا علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبا محمد حسن مجتبى عليه السلام. السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ الحسین علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم یا مظلوم کربلا. السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ. السلام علیکم ابن امیر المومنین و ابن سید الوسیجین. السلام علیکم ابن فاطمۃ الزہراء سید النساء العالمین. السلام علیکم مولانا ابو الفضل العباس علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم قمر بنی ہاشم. السلام علیکم عبد السالمتی للہ و رسولہ. السلام علیکم علی بن الحسین علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم اولاد الحسین علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم اصحاب الحسین علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم محمد ابن علی علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم جعفر ابن محمد علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم موسیٰ ابن جعفر علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم علی ابن موسیٰ علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم یا مولانا غریب الغرباء. السلام علیکم معین الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام علیکم شمس الشموس انیس النفوس ایھا المدفون بارض الطوس. السلام علیکم محمد ابن علی علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم علی ابن محمد علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم حسن ابن علی علیہ السلام. السلام علیکم یا مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان اللمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام علیکم خلیفۃ الرحمن. السلام علیکم شریک القرآن. السلام علیکم امام الانس والجان. اجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسال اللہ تعالی مخرجک وظہورک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. اللہم کل ولیک الحجت ابن الحسن صلواتک علیہ وعلی آبائہ فی ہذہ الساعة وفی کل ساعة ولیا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودلیلا وعینا حتی تسکنہ ارضک طوعا وتمتعہ فیہا طویلا برحمتک یا ارحم الراحمین. اللہم صلی علی